Hey y'all, I wanted to come on here tonight and share a little bit of my healing journey, my purity journey. We'll not get into my healing journey tonight, but I do want to share some of my purity journey. So I'm going to wait for y'all to, I'm going to wait for some of y'all to get on and then I'm going to share, yeah, my healing, my purity journey. Um, So if you know somebody that is walking in purity, that is struggling with purity, or who wants to um, abstain from sex outside of marriage, please invite them in because I'm going to talk about it from a different perspective. A lot of people talk about it because it's the right thing to do. And sometimes it's a trend or it's something that people think they have to do. But what happened to me is different because when I started my purity journey, I was not a young woman. I had been divorced. I had four children, and with different fathers. Well, three. My husband and my ex-husband and I have two children together, and then I had two before I met him. So I had been a worldly woman and unsaved, and I got radically born again. And when I got born again, a couple of years after I got born again, after my youngest daughter was born, actually, I got born again when she was in November. So she was born in August, and I got born again in November. She is 23, she'll be 24. So from that time, I was just radically saved and all in for Christ. And then my ex husband and I divorced because we started going different ways. Here I was, this radically born again person. And even though he liked that I had changed and I was not who I used to be, it no longer fit his lifestyle. So our lifestyles changed. However, so I was divorced, and I decided when I got divorced that um, I had one time, one person I dated, and I was just born again. And I knew that God didn't want me to enter in to what I had done before, to the lifestyle I used to live. And so some people come and somebody tells them that they have to. But out of my relationship and my love for God, I saw a more excellent way of doing things. And I think that that is what the purity journey is about. I'm sorry, I'm in my room tonight. I think that's what I'm still waiting for furniture if you watch me regularly. I think that's what the purity journey is about, is finding out that there's a more excellent way. So it's not only about pleasing God, but our bodies are the temple of the Holy Spirit. And so we are not supposed to share our bodies with other people who, um, are not our husbands or our wives, if we are men. But what I also saw is that there was a better way to do things than I had done them in the past. And so that was why I came into a purity journey. I came in because I saw the errors of my ways. I saw that sex outside of marriage was wrong, that having children outside of a marriage really hurt them in the long run. For so young women, when I talk to young women these days who, even though they're not like they were in my age, I'm 47, I'll be 48. So even though I don't look it, but back in the 80s, I had my first daughter in 1989. you know a lot of women, young girls, weren't finishing school. I did go ahead and finish school early at the age of 17, high school, and went on and got two college degrees. But a lot of people didn't finish. But these days, a lot of young women are finishing school, they're educated, they're able to take care of their child, but they're still missing the component of raising a child without a father, not having two parents in the home, and how that really affects the children and fatherlessness. And so when I decided to do this journey, I realized that I had done things wrong, and I was very repentant of what I had done, and not just, with regret, but I wanted to live differently. I wanted to live for Christ. I wanted my next time to be special. I wanted it to be with my husband and the man who God had called me to be in covenant with, and that the two would become one flesh. So I had this dream, and still do, of living this way, and having that, having purity going into marriage, and just keeping it holy, because after so many years, and it, 10 years, probably 10 years in, I met someone, and 10 years in, and then I really had to, my convictions were tested, because I had not thought about, dating. So it kind of threw me off guard. What are you going to do if you date? How is this going to go? And to be honest, I think it's because I had always prayed, that me and my ex-husband would get back together, because that's the vision I have for my life. So I hadn't thought of the fact of, what if you actually meet somebody, which is crazy. And it tells you how far off I was from, even with the anointing and all of that. I think sometimes we can miss the mark in our own lives. But that being said, I hadn't really thought out how it would be to date. And and it became a struggle. And I really had to go back to my why. I had to go back to, my why. I dated the same first person for 2 years, but I wasn't ready for marriage, because I really wanted to make sure it was the one, because he was the one, because I had been through divorce, right? So I had been through a divorce. I had had 4 children, and I just did not want to go through anything else again. And I wanted to make sure that I wasn't just marrying, um, to marry, or marrying so that we could have sex, but I wanted this to be my life partner. I didn't want to go through another divorce, and I didn't want to be miserable in another marriage. And so I really needed prayer. So this person and I dated for 2 years, and I, continued to say no. Um, and keep my purity going. But there were times when we came close, where I felt like, you know, I might as well have failed. It was a lot. It was a lot. But looking back, I really had to stand on my why. And so sometimes we enter into the purity journey, and adults. So I want to know if anybody's out there in their late 30s and midlife and their 40s, if you've been divorced, let me know. Because sometimes and maybe you weren't always saved. How are you dealing with that? Because I believe that God does call us to live pure, even if we were never, if we hadn't done it before, that we can do it. Even if we've been divorced, and we are called to wait until we get married. Even if we meet someone and everything is clicking, then we still have not just a responsibility to God, but that, even though that's so true, but to ourselves. To honor our bodies, to honor our convictions. And those convictions will be tested when you meet somebody that, you're considering marriage with, or that type of thing. And so I had to really go back and remember my why. And I think that's what we have to remember, because I know that, because I have ministered to so many women inside and outside of church. I did women's ministry for 12 years. I actually just passed it on to someone this year, and after doing it for over 12 years. But I've also ministered to women in different places. And a lot of times I find that, if a woman meets the right man, then she will lose her conviction. So that conviction, yes, and that's what I found myself having to do, was having to cut the spiritual soul ties. But if a woman meets the right man, or a man meets the right woman, then that conviction goes out the window. That truth, that belief of what they thought they believed, goes out the window, and they're tested in it. And there's all kinds of, things that go on when a person meets the right person. So I've met women, and I've counseled women who said they failed, or they tried but they just couldn't. And I'm like, okay, God, is something wrong with me? Why? Not in a bad way, but it's like I am just like stuck on this conviction that, I guess after 10 years of being abstinent, it was easy for me to just say no. It wasn't not that it was so easy, and meeting someone definitely was tested, but I think I had more self control than many people because I had been um, on this purity journey for so long. And let me just explain what I mean by purity journey. So, when for being abstinent, I did not watch certain movies and still don't watch certain movies, didn't go certain places, because it's a mindset. So, as your mind thinks, so goes your actions, and your feet, and your thoughts, and your words. And so, I knew, as far as my purity journey, that I don't need to be doing things that I used to do before I was saved. I wasn't interested in going out and partying anyway, but I knew that it wasn't something that would benefit me in a purity journey. And I knew that watching certain things weren't going to benefit me. There was no I'm just going to say it, I hope we're all adults on here, there's no masturbation or anything like that. I mean, I walked the walk with the Lord, and it was a lifestyle, and it was a relationship that I have with him that was at the root of it. It was what he had taught me. It was me changing my mindset. Don't be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, that you may prove what is a good and acceptable and perfect will of God. And so when I so that's why I was able to do it, because my mind was changed. And I think that a lot of people miss that. They hear that you're supposed to do it, they hear that our bodies are the temple of the Holy Spirit and all these different things. But when you look at it as a lifestyle change, that it's not just about safe sex, it's about sharing your body with somebody else and coming into covenant with someone else. And honestly, it's funny because the person I was dating, he just got tired of waiting. I wasn't ready for marriage, and I wasn't ready to get married because I wanted to be sure. But I also wasn't willing to just start having a sexual relationship, not even after 2 years, because um, I just wanted to make sure that I had, and it wasn't like I was the worst sinner, but I was not a saint for sure when I was in the world, BC, before Christ. So I had already lived a life of sin. And so I knew what that was like. I was raised Catholic, but I was not born again until after I had my fourth child. And that was 23, almost 24 years ago. So I was probably 24, going on 25, somewhere around there, when I had my fourth child. And I was married and got radically born again in my living room. And so I had already lived a certain life. And so it wasn't about trying to do things over. It was about learning to do things right, and wanting to do things the right way, and having a conviction that to do things right and to experience God's blessing in my next relationship. But so that's how it started. And how it's going is, after 10 years or so, after me and my ex-husband um, finally broke up and called it quits for good. um, it had been about 10 years or so, and then meeting someone, no, like maybe about 10 years, meeting someone else. I was tested in ways that I did not know. And just recently I had to recommit to my purity. Was that rain outside? Purity journey, because I think I had opened up, even though I didn't go all the way. I had been tested in my conviction so much that I had opened myself up to things and went as far as I could go. And that's just, to be honest, I'm just going to be honest. And going back, I said, God, I had to, what stopped me from going all the way is the Holy Spirit. And, um, just remembering why I made the choice, why I made the decision, why I walked away, and didn't do things even in when my divorce was over, what was important to me. And I know that women can use it and God will forgive you and people do it. And but I just made this decision. And so how it's going is that I learned a lot because I learned that even men who are Christian are not many men who are Christian do not want to wait that long. Yes. And so I think that's true as well. But I think and that person would wait, but I don't think I would know, and it wouldn't be, maybe that would stop the time. It wouldn't have to be 2 years, right? But anyway, I just felt like I want to get on here and share. It's just very interesting because I recommitted to my purity journey. And it's like when I was sharing with someone why I did that, he was like, but you didn't go all the way. So why would you do that? I just feel like, you have to start back from where your mind is and the things that I entertained. And so pulling myself back into that lane and recommitting. I haven't dated anybody else. So in 10 years of divorce, I dated one person. But and it took me a while because, as you said, Mr. John Adams, um, after divorce, it takes a while. It took a while for me to cut the soul ties before I went forward, right? And so when I was finally ready to move forward, it wasn't, you know, I just wanted to date a whole bunch of people. I met somebody and dated one person, but in recommitting to the purity journey, even though I didn't go all the way, I decided that, I wanted to, think about better ways to date because I didn't know a lot going in. I didn't know the first time because my mind was not on dating when I finally decided to date. It's like I met somebody and it happened, So my mind was not really, I wasn't really prepared to enter the dating scene, believe it or not, 48 years old. But as a born again person, now before BC, before Christ, that was a completely different story. But as a Christian with new convictions, I wasn't prepared for how to handle those things. And like how to handle situations, should you kiss, should you do these things? And now I understand some people think it's so different. Some people think it's that's kind of a far step, but I think you should know something because when you open up love before it's time, and then you're dealing with people out of your emotion and your attraction and not the wisdom and the purpose of God, so you're not getting a clear picture. So when you are attracted to someone and you open up love before it's time with kissing or touching or anything like that, then what do? You blur your vision, and even if they're not right for you, you don't see that, right? You see what you want to see. And if they are right for you, you may rush things and it may not go where it's supposed to go because that now the focus is on each other and not God. So you can't see if your purposes align and all of that. So I think purity brings focus, it brings clarity. When you walk in purity in your relationships and dating going forward, I think that I will keep a fine line, because you need the clarity. Purity gives you clarity and it keeps your emotions in check so that you do not um, move out of emotion or attraction, but you move out of the spirit of God and you move out with your purpose, and you're able to say no, and you're able to walk away from things that God didn't mean for you to. Yes, and don't want to miss a mark, and so that's why I think that purity is so important, and just abstaining from not just sex, but from the things that bring entertain and sex, that things that bring people into that intimate relationship. I think that's a part of purity until you um, are in a marriage or in an engagement, and you know this person is the one. You both know each other are the one, and you're planning to do something about it. Then intimacy at any level, I think, can distract you from making the choice that God has from you, can create soul ties with someone that then it's hard to break or to break up because you have a connection to somebody that maybe God hasn't called you to be with, to be in a marriage. So I think it's so important that we, even as adults, walk in purity, because I have seen, women ministering to women. I have met women, I have ministered to women. Actually, I actually knew, I don't know if she was 40. Was she 40? But she was a virgin. But she felt like her life wasn't going anywhere. She hadn't experienced anything. Right. Um, and she ended up getting in after saving herself for so long as an adult, a teacher, all these things. She ended up getting into a sexual relationship with a man who wasn't right for her. And then one relationship after the other, because she felt like she had missed out on life because she was 40 and she had grown up in church and she had never gotten married and never had children or a family and all the things that she hoped and wished for. And I think that sometimes the devil plays on that, whether you have been married or not, if you've been by yourself for a long time. But this person gave up her virginity and just, started dating people and then had to return and recommit to her purity journey after doing that because she felt like she was missing out on something, you know. She was literally a 40-year-old virgin. I think she was 30 something or 40. I keep saying that because of the movie, but literally had waited all that time. A beautiful soul, loved the Lord, but something got to her, and it would be a man in church. But anyway, and then I think of a young woman who I ministered to last weekend. Is there about, yes, that says we'll be with our loved ones in heaven. We will see them in heaven. But I was just reading this morning in my reading that we'll all be like the angels. And so there won't be male or female. We'll be like angels. But I think we will know each other by our soul and our spirit. So we will be able to see each other just like Abraham and Moses were recognizable, and I believe it was Elijah on the mountain. You will be recognizable, but I don't think that we will all be the sons and daughters of God like the angel. But back to this here, the young girl that I was ministering to, again, raised up in church, loves the Lord, went to Christian school, went to Christian college, um, going through a hard place in life and end up dating someone and gave her virginity to someone that is not who God would have her to be, and now has to recommit to the purity journey again. If that's what she chooses. And the older woman that I talked about, who was almost 40 and had been a virgin, she was. It took her a while. She felt like she was missing something. She felt like, she said, I she told me, we were talking one day, we're at an event, and she was like, but I like having sex, but I want to enjoy, but she had forgot because she had never experienced it, so she had not dealt with the effects of sin yet, because she was 40 years old and she, had not been married, had not had children, had kept herself. And then when she decided to stop waiting and just, go for it and enter into these different relationships, she enjoyed herself, but she had to come to herself, right? And see that it creates the soul ties, it creates the pain and the trauma of, it's not just do it and walk away. No, you have a connection, you have soul ties, you feel a sense of shame when things don't work out, when somebody tells you that they love you and all these things, and they don't, their words and their actions don't line up, and it doesn't work out, and you don't get married, and that person doesn't love you. And so I, ministered to her, and I don't know why I feel led to share this, but I just thought I would share about my purity journey, how it started, and how we can be going along for a while, as long as the boat isn't rocked, as long as the enemy doesn't send someone to that entices us, or as long as we're not like the young woman or the older woman, not lured away because we think we're missing out on something, whether you're a virgin for life like they were, or you've had a marriage, or you've had a sexual experience and then you don't, whatever it is. And when you enter into the journey, at some point you will be tested. And so it has to be more than, you know, you think it's wrong, because that won't hold up. That won't hold up against temptation. Doing something because you heard it's right, doing something out of the letter of the law, doing something just because you think it's right without any conviction of the Holy Spirit, without knowing your own personal why on your purity journey, is not going to hold up, because we can flip. We can do the right thing one minute and do the wrong thing the next minute. But when you have your own convictions and you have a relationship with the Lord, and you see that it's honoring you, whatever it is, whether it's a purity journey and abstaining from sex, or it's whatever your convictions are about, whatever it is that you choose to do, when it becomes personal to you, when it becomes um, about your relationship with God, when it becomes about your relationship with yourself and being true to your own convictions, then it can stand up. You might fall, but you will get back up. But if you do not have a conviction, if you don't know your own personal why, and that's what kept me, and that's how it's going, is that wow, and it even hurt to lose a relationship that part of me knew wasn't right for me, otherwise I would have had said yes to the marriage, to getting married, but also because it was, he didn't want to do the purity thing anymore. It was like, okay, enough of that. And that really hurt. That was like, okay, this is what we're doing. We are um this is a choice I'm making. I'm being asked to choose between my convictions. And I think so many young women, and because I'm an older woman and I'm in ministry, and I've, been in church, and, even though it was hard, and I was able to stand that. And, I know what it's like to sin. I know the consequences of sin. So I have a greater understanding of why I don't want to do certain things. But for younger women who may not be, who may think that they're going to lose a man, a boyfriend, or someone that they are connected to because they hold on to their convictions, a lot of times they will give that up. And that's the people, especially the young woman that I ministered to, guy totally not right for her. And she knew it. But she was tied by her soul to him, because she had given in to him, because she was in a bad place in life, feeling, depressed with COVID and just getting out of college and all these things. And the job she started, had to end because of COVID. All these different things, all these factors played into her self-esteem. And then she made a bad decision, and gave her virginity to someone who didn't deserve it, who wasn't her husband, after, you know, being in church and going to a Christian college and really having these convictions. But I don't, so sometimes life will catch you by surprise, and the enemy waits for an opportune time. But other times, I think that we just don't, we do things because we think it's the right thing to do without having any conviction of our own. And so I just want to know, if you're out there and you're watching, um, even if you've never been married or you've had sex before or you are divorced, wherever your journey has taken you thus far, are you have you ever committed to a purity journey and to abstain from sex? Have you ever committed to a purity journey? And by purity, I don't know what this comment means, but let me have to block this person because let me try that. Um, and by purity, I mean not just abstaining from sex, but watching what you watch, watching where you go, the actions you take, and the purity journey is what you think on and what you do and the actions you take, not just the actions of not having sex, but not being intimate in relationships where it's not your marriage. Have you done that? If you haven't, um, and you're a Christian, why have you not? And if you have, how is that going for you? And have you ever been tested? And what is your why? If you're on a purity journey, I would love to know your why. Do you know your own convictions? Is it something that you are doing because you think it's the right thing to do because the Bible says so? Or do you see the benefit of not doing it? That not only is our bodies the temple of the Holy Spirit, but also have you been transformed by the renewing of your own mind? Have you looked and saw how it hurts you when you get into soul ties, when you have sex outside of marriage with somebody that you're not committed to? Have you learned from past mistakes and want to do things God's way because God's way is best for you? John Adams, I had to delete a video. I mean, a text comment by someone. I don't think it was you. It was someone else that asked me something inappropriate. On my friend. And yes, it's not just purity from sex, but being careful with everything. Yes, amen, Keisha. It's being careful with everything. And some people, I think some people were surprised when I said my purity journey. I've talked about it before. It also included um that my purity journey also included no masturbation and all of those things, like how you're abstaining from sex is not is includes that. It includes not watching things, not doing things to yourself, and all of that. And so it's not just abstaining, but it's saying, God, I consecrate my life to you, I consecrate my body to you. And so i had I was sharing, if you're just now getting here, I'll go back to it one more time. I went on a purity journey after having 4 children. I had 2 children with my ex-husband. I had 2 children before I met him, and so I was not always saved. I got radically born again when my youngest daughter was born. She was born in October. I got born again in November. And from that time, almost 23 years ago, also, believe it or not, I'll be 48 in May. From that time, I was radically born again and on fire for the Lord. And, I guess it was about 2003 or 4, me and my ex husband divorced, but then we got back together. We did this back and forth thing for years. Really, it was like, and I wanted my marriage to work. I wanted my marriage to be restored, but that finally didn't work out. And so, being abstaining finally from sex for 10 years after that was over, and and I had made a choice. It wasn't just because I knew it was the right thing to do or because the Bible had said so. It was because I consecrated my life to God. I made a clear choice not to enter into the things I had done before, the way I had lived my life before Christ, and my mind had been renewed. I saw what I had done before: sex outside of marriage, children outside of marriage. I saw that, and I saw that there was a more excellent way, that God had a better plan for me, and that even though I had missed the mark before, that I could get it right this time and I could receive the blessing. of getting it right and walk in that. And I wanted to wait for marriage. I wanted to um, wait for my husband and wait for that special someone to do it this time right. Not because I had so many regrets, but I just saw things differently. I understood the why, and that became my why. So I understood God's why and his ways, and that became my why. And so I went into the journey, but I didn't also date for 10 years. I was not interested in dating because I thought that me and my ex-husband were going to get back together. That was my prayer. That was my hope. And so, hey, and so that was my prayer and my hope. Hey, Lane. And so I really didn't focus on dating. I was like in a bubble. Sometimes God puts you in a holy bubble. And so even though men were attracted to me and I know that I'm attractive and all of that, I just was in a zone where it was just like, no, 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 no. But also I didn't go any place. I didn't do anything. I didn't put myself in situations. And so to want to be tempted, I didn't watch things. I didn't go places. I didn't do anything. And then it came a point where I was finally over my ex-husband and I wanted to move on and I wanted to date. And so I met someone. Let me read some of your comments here. I am a divorced woman. Okay. I got one conviction that I should have married my ex. I rushed into that one. Yes, sometimes we rush. I have to be careful with what I watch, what I listen to. Yes, no masturbation. Also, people also ask how I'm able to, but it's strictly the Lord walking me through the journey. Amen, sister. That's what it is. It's the Lord, and it's what we put our eye gate, our ear gate. What we put in front of us, right? And so that actually helps a lot. But I started. It takes the Lord, child. Yes. I started, so I started dating somebody I hadn't dated, and I was not prepared because I had never dated before. I mean, I hadn't dated. Like I was like the born again version. I hadn't dated. I hadn't, gone out. I hadn't done anything. And I met somebody 2 years ago, and he went along for a while, but when I didn't want to get married, because I wanted it to be the right person. Again, because I had been through a divorce. It wasn't that I didn't have feelings for him. It's just like, I want to make sure that it's the right person. I don't want to go through a divorce. I don't want to get married for the wrong reasons. I don't want to get married just so we can have sex. I want, to know that this is what God has for me. And I know that it's hard, but I just need time. Sexual sex is a spiritual thing for sure. Um, uh-uh. And I just need time to make sure that it is, God, and because I'm so new to this, I need time. Like, and so in that time, he didn't want to wait anymore. And if you could share or like this video, that would help whoever's watching, because it helps other people see it. So if you guys don't mind liking the video, but what I learned is that some men are like, no, like men, 2 years is like, no, ma'am, either, we gonna do this or we're gonna get married or I'm gonna walk away. And, that tested my convictions. So that really tested my convictions because I was torn between, do I just give in and get married because that's what he wants right now, even though I'm not sure to give him what he wants, or do I just, that was A, so that we can have sex. B was, do I just have sex with him because I have feelings with him? Or B, do I keep holding onto my convictions and let the chips fall? While I was trying to figure it out, I think it was that he was not the one, and it could have been a bit of both, Elaine. I think it shouldn't take that long, so it shouldn't have taken 2 years. So either he was not the one, but I think I was still had some unresolved issues, right? So I still had some unresolved issues. So even if he was the one, or we could have made it work, because God, what I've also come to believe is that God can bring two people together, right? That love the Lord, that are in purpose, that are committed to marriage, and they can have a healthy marriage if they're both committed to it. That we don't have to find a soulmate. We have to find people that are want the same thing, that are walking the same way, that have the same purpose. But I had to come to that conviction, and I had to finish dealing with things. I thought that I was completely over my ex-husband or had let go of all the things, but a lot of things popped up in me because I had never dealt with them. I was just celebrate. I was just not dealing with him. But, going into a relationship, I saw that there were areas that I still needed to heal, to be honest. If we just, and so there was a lot of work that I realized I had to do in order to, and that was a lot of what was holding me back from taking the next step and saying yes to being married. And, it's also possible that he wasn't the one, because maybe I wouldn't have had all those doubts. But I think it was a little bit of both, because I definitely had feelings for him, but it was just like there was just so many, things, so many fears I had to overcome. But in that time, he got tired of waiting. He got tired of no sex. And so, and I, had to let him walk away because I just was not willing. That's when my convictions were tested. It was like, okay, so, and maybe again, like you said, was he the one? Because, you know, would the one had waited? Sometimes you think if he was the one, I want to say if he was the one, he would have waited. But then sometimes we send wrong signals. So I don't know. But what I do know is that when it came down to, give me sex or I'm done, I said, you have to do what you have to do. I can't be that person. It's not about he did serve the Lord, but like I said about my friend who was 40, almost a 40-year-old version, it was a deacon in the church that, some people be in church and don't really, they serve the Lord, but their heart is not for him. So my friend who was almost 40 and had been a virgin, no kids and anything, and when she fell into sexual sin because she felt like she was missing out on something, it was with somebody in the church that served the Lord. And then he went on and, she found out he had done this to other women. And that doesn't mean all men in church are like that, but that means that that's what happened to her. And instead of her stopping, it set her on a uh, campaign of these, bad relationships for a while, for a couple of years, actually. And it was sad. And, he said all the right things. He wanted to be with her, all the things, just like I was hearing. So you hear all the things, and it's like I think a lot of young women and older women, they think they find the one, and the person is saying all the right things. I want to marry you, blah, blah, blah. And so they go ahead and, because this is going to be my husband. But I was like, you're not my husband yet. I was not always saved. And so, and when I say a thing, I mean it. And so it's like, no, we're not, I'm waiting on the Lord. Plus, I've served in ministry and I have a relationship with the Lord. And I felt like, it's not so much what people thought, but I didn't want to be a hypocrite. I didn't want to get up. I had already tested the waters and gone further than I should have gone, but I was like, I'm not gonna be in a, sexual relationship, getting up ministering the gospel. Maybe other people can do it, but I can't do that. I just can't. I feel like the Lord will strike me down. I feel like lightning will strike me. So I'm just not, I can't personally do that. And my convictions were really tested, and I was amazed, even as it was. And I don't think I so much passed the test because, like I said, there were times when I went as far as I could go, and I've had to recommit to my purity journey, which is not just abstaining from sex, which I was able to do by the skin of my teeth, but to not put myself in situations, and all of the things that go with living a pure life so that you don't find yourself in situations. But I was amazed, but it was my relationship with God that kept me. It was my convictions, not what someone else had told me. Remembering my why, remembering why I chose this life in the first place, and realizing that I was going to lose some people. that I was going to lose a relationship. I'm having to be okay with that, because at the end of the day, I want somebody that wants what God wants. And it's hard because people say they want what God wants, but they don't always end up wanting it, right? When it comes down to it. And so and I realize, like, I'm not trying to be holier than thou. I'm not trying to, um, start a new fad, or, people do things, but that's who really, when it came down to it, I realized that I am who I say I am. At the core of me, I am who God called me to be. And so sometimes people, so if there's a person you like, what do you do? Just asking. I haven't I haven't liked a person in a while. So I don't I had, like I said, I didn't date for 10 years. I was divorced. I didn't date. I focused on ministry. I I know it sounds weird, and I was just going to say that because people look at me, and I, look attractive. I look younger than I am, and so people, that's why you can't tell a book by its cover. You have to read it and get to know it. So I've had men even on here, good night, Pamela. I've had people on here inbox me, people on Facebook, all different things. And I'm just not, I feel like, I guess I would know. I don't, if I like a person, I guess I would talk to them. That's how I met the person. I was at a wedding, and I think, Elaine, you were there if you're still watching, and I had not dated or anything of that nature. And I think we met at that wedding, and it for 10 years, and being divorced and all of that. And then I met somebody, and we connected. Now I think I had in 10 years taken maybe one other number, and the guy was completely turned off when I said I was a Christian, when he called me. And that was that. And but yeah, I think that I would try and move forward. But what I've also learned is that yes, the wedding. I also learned that, in trying to date, because now I'm open to dating, right? I just be careful. I was celibate for 10 years. So I've learned how to be content in my singleness. But if I am talking about now, so this was how it started and how it is. So I went through that relationship, and we're still friends, but I am who I am, and he is who he is. And so that's it is what it is, right? But I really learned that I need to be honest. I was honest with him, and he was okay with me being who I am. Although after 2 years of me, being on the fence and not wanting to get married, he was over it, and I get that. But that I need to be honest about who I am. That sometimes I see you're so tied to the Lord. Amen. It's sometimes um you know, I realize that it's best to not spill all your life on somebody, but to be honest about who you are and what you stand for, so you don't waste time. And so I think if there's somebody that I like, and I have, almost, have been, what is it called? What is it called? When somebody approaches you by men since he and I broke up. And, what I am clear about now, which I wasn't clear when I met him, and it wasn't his fault or anything, but dating him taught me some things. Dating someone who was kind and patient with me taught me certain things. Um, to be honest about who I am. There's somebody who will accept me for who I am, and all the things, and that I am in ministry, and that I do have a calling on my life, and that is who I am, and that is what I do. My past, as far as my children, being a teen mother and that type of thing, having more than one father of my children, all the things, I think that you just need to be honest about. And then also seeing things. I've had handsome men who, by all pretense, look like, they would be a quote unquote good catch, but they're not for me. And just a little bit back and forth in the inbox, and I can say, nope, nope, because I already know. So I don't want to waste time. I'm 48. And so well, I'll be 48, God willing, in a couple of months. I'm 47. I have 4 adult children, and I don't want to waste time. Um, and I don't want to waste anybody's time. And so I just have to trust God that He will bring someone. But in the meantime, because I am now open to dating, I do feel like, whereas before I wasn't, um, you know, for 10 years after a divorce, I only dated one person. So I wasn't open. And now that I am, I truly feel like, that I have to definitely learn. I have definitely learned some things, and I definitely want to live a life of purity and, date differently and not waste time. And so that's a good question. What would I do if I like a person? What would I do? I don't know. I think I would be upfront and tell that person that, I was interested in them. At the same time, I feel like Ruth went to Boaz. I hope that answers your question. um yeah, I wasn't ready at the time. Yeah, I think I wasn't ready for, to commit to a whole nother marriage, to commit to a whole nother life, and to commit my life to somebody. I had unfinished business that I didn't realize I had to deal with, before I could move on. And so, but I think that I, like Ruth and Boaz, I would, tell the person. I wasn't always that way, and I don't think that women should really pursue. But I love the way this one guy who has a podcast, Dear Future Wifey, um, present. I love that he said that women should not pursue, but they should present. And so Ruth presented a proposal. Ruth presented. Yeah, I don't feel like, I know the Bible says people believe different things about marriage. Um, but let me finish this. I believe women should not pursue, but I do believe that they should present as Ruth presented herself. And so sometimes I think we get it wrong, and then women are always waiting and feel like they can't be open, you know, and share their feelings. But so, are you willing to join a Christian singles ministry? I got mixed feeling about them. I've been asked to start a Christian singles ministry a couple of times. And I have thought about doing so, doing a Bible study and doing some events. So, yeah, am I willing to join one? I don't know. But I think it's definitely needed. And I never joined a Christian singles ministry. And I think that was part of the problem of me not having the tools when I did start dating, because I hadn't worked through certain things. So I think that Christians, uh, singles ministry is definitely about not just learning to embrace your singleness, but being healed in that time and being ready for your next mate, or to live pure until that person comes. And if that person never comes, to be content in whatever state that you're in, and to learn how to date. I think that that should be something in a Christian singles ministry. And as far as marrying again, I want to be married again. So I definitely want to enjoy, um, all the benefits of a married life, having a partner to do life with, being able to enjoy sex. I haven't had sex in many, many years, and all of those things. Not sure, some people say they do. Yeah. And so I definitely, um, but I want to marry the right person. And sometimes you just have to trust God and trust, the process, and be committed. I think if two people are committed to the idea of marriage and to each other, and they find someone that they can be friends with, and that they can love, and that they can get along with and work with and partner with, I think that marriage can work, and it can be a beautiful thing, if the Lord is the center, if we both agree that the Lord and the Bible is where we go to get our information, where we go to settle disagreements, and all of those things. And so that's going to be the foundation, the center, and the final say in everything. If we both at least commit to that, I think that marriage can work with the, that creates the right person, that there's not just this. So, because you can meet somebody who you do click with, that you do like have all the things with, but they maybe not serve the Lord, or they don't love God, or they, you don't line up in your purpose. And so I think that those things are so important, but I also believe attraction and all of that is important. So I definitely want to be married again, but I don't want to rush it, and I don't want to marry somebody that I can't see myself just hanging out with and being friends with. Because, yeah. Maybe because we're both here in Southern Cali. I just finished my women's ministry, so actually this past year was my last year, and actually today in church we just made it official, where the person I passed the ministry to, I actually got to select the person I wanted to step down or pass it on 2 years ago. But I waited a couple of more years, and the Lord, you will join. And the Lord told me, gave me the name. I said, I'll wait until the Lord gives me the right person. So he gave me the name last April. And from that time, and so this was my last year, and I'm asking the Lord what he wants me to do. And um, and I have some plans and some things that I want to do, but a lot of people have asked me to do a singles ministry. But I think that singles ministry is definitely, I would want to do not the young people. Let somebody else do that. I'm talking to people who are in at least 35 and up, because I'm 40 something. So I really want to do 40 and up, and do what people who have either have children, even if you've never been married, or people that are like Ruth and Boaz, that this is their second time around, or they're older. I don't want to, because we are a whole thing. Like, I didn't even know how to be single when we had singles ministry in my church. I felt awkward because I wasn't in the married ministry, couples ministry, because I was no longer married. But the singles ministry was a whole bunch of kids and young people who were looking to get married for the first time. And here I was, this yes, and here I was, in the, four kids, and then with their divorce. I am not single. I didn't feel that kind of single. Like, no, I done had kids. I am not where you're at, you first time arounders. I am in a space where I need a different type of ministry. And so that's where I started out when my kids were young and I had gone through a divorce. And so I never did singles ministry because it just didn't fit me. And so I would definitely want to do a ministry for people who were, who had been through a divorce, or who were, older and hadn't been married, or, mature Christian singles, not mature as in gray and, ready to, not senior citizens. That's a whole nother ministry. But those who are, um, maybe you've never been married, but you want to be well balanced and learn how to date as a Christian and find your mate. Actually, I have a whole name for it. Um, and but I just feel like I don't know if I wanted to. Yes, feel your divorce, not in that type either. So fit the box, right? Yes. And so, yeah, I don't know. I thought about it. I thought about doing it as a podcast or so many things. But I'm gonna pray about it because I've been wanting to do something for a couple of years. I'm not gonna share the name, but I have a website name and everything. I have all this stuff, and I just don't know if it's, what I want to focus on. Um, but it's not like I'm doing that for here, because I'm thinking no. But now that I'm sharing this, it's like, it's actually a prayer that I used to pray for my daughters. And for that they would find a mate, and that a man that finds a wife finds a good thing. And so, and that's how I got the name. And then as I started researching, and so I thought about just starting with doing a podcast around it. First, I started about a magazine. Anyway, I'm going on a tangent, but I'm going to pray about that, Elaine. You pray and I'll pray. We pray. She pray. He pray. We pray. Woo. Anyway, so I just wanted to come on here. We have been on here about an hour. And so this is my purity journey, how it started and how it's going. It started after I got divorced and I had lived a life as a sinner. And then yes. And I had lived a life as a sinner. Let's do it. And then I decided to walk in holiness and purity out of my conviction and my mind being transformed and renewed. And I got tested just in the past 2 years. And when I say I got tested, I think if I passed, the Lord just said, I'm gonna just let you pass because, because you didn't do the act, but because you was dancing around, you got about a D. But no, I'm gonna say like a C minus, because in college courses you need at least a C to pass. So I went on to the next. I went on to the next course, but by the skin of my teeth, because I, tried, it was like, okay, at one point it was like, how much could I get away with? And then I was contemplating in my head, just doing things to appease the relationship. And this is when God said, I'm pulling you out. I'm pulling you out. This is not going to work because you're not going to, I loved you too much, daughter, to let you go out like that. And that's really what happened. It was like, no, I'm not going to allow you to do that, yeah. So I was really thinking, you get to that place and it's like, I'm going to lose this relationship because he's tired of me waiting. And I don't really want to get married yet because I don't know. And then toward the end, he was like, well, I don't even know if I want to get married anymore. I'm tired of what he just resenting me for, going back and forth with him for so long. And I really don't blame him because I was like, in and out, like we gotta, break up. This, I can't do this. And then I would want to come back. So it was kind of, not the best, for him. And so he put up with a lot for me. But then when he kind of got fed up, that's when I was like, wait a minute, I don't want to break up. And, so, but then God said, no, 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 this is not the way that works. Either it's done right or it's not done. And so I had to stand on that, and I had to just let the pain subside. And, because it really hurt, because I really did care about him. Yes. And yes, the Lord saved me. He rescued me when I was too weak to rescue myself, because at that point, I feel like the women I just shared about, the young woman or the older woman who was really contemplating giving in to save this relationship. And God said, no, that will not be you. So yes, all that glitters is not gold. Yeah, I almost gave in, and God said, no, no. Mercy said no. Mercy said no. And it took a while, but we're friends now, and he is who he is and I am who I am. And I still hold my convictions, that I want to wait for marriage. And he ain't about that life no more. I think he was just doing it for me, to be with me. So it is what it is. But I said, that's what I want, and that's what I'm sticking to. And so sometimes I think that women and men, especially women, have to be prepared that men may, walk away. That a lot of men who say they want, they talk a good game, but when it comes down to it in your relationship, that's not, they want something else. And so you have to think that through. And so I think going into, dating this time around, even though I haven't dated, I've been invited on dates, but I'm just like, um, but I'm open to it. Well, for 10 years, I was not. So I'm not going to wait 10 years again. That I'm not doing. I don't have that time. I've healed in a lot of those places. But what I will say is that, and I'm ready now. I think I'm ready for love. I'm ready. I want that in my life. Before, I was raising my kids and, all of that. And now, I'm in a different time and space in my life. And so I'm open to that. And, And I want that. And I believe that God will give me the desires of my heart. Um, but I definitely feel like I want to, um, make sure that I walk the line, that I don't open love before it's time, that I'm very clear about my convictions and weed out people who, see me. I mean, I've had men in my inbox before. It never fails. Like somebody will see me and it's like, I understand that I'm attractive, but I don't wear sleazy clothes or anything. But I do understand that I'm attractive. But it's like you see somebody and you think, something, and it's like you don't even know me. Like you don't even know me. Don't let this little pretty face or something like that fool you. Like I'm a Christian. If you date that one, I don't think I think that the right person that I date would not disturb my work for the Lord. The person that I did date, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to be transparent because I used to be, you know, I used to didn't want to own, my pretty because it makes people upset or, it's just like it draws sometimes the wrong attention. But I have to embrace that as well. I'm not the prettiest person, but I get that I'm attractive. I get that people think I'm pretty and, but that's not all there is to me. And so, but if and so people oftentimes see that or see somebody well put together and mistake me for something else. And I'm like, it's people down over here with skirts down to their legs and, not and will sleep with the man and then another man. And over here, just because I'm cute and I wear makeup, you don't know me. That doesn't mean that I'm for all the foolishness. Holiness is the attitude of the heart and of the mind. And, so you'll know a person by their fruit. But so this is how I have to deal with people in the inboxes. But the person that I dated before, he did not draw me away from the Lord. He would go to my events with me. He would help me. He would do so many things. And I don't know if he just did it for me, but he was very good to me in that way. He did whatever I needed him to do. And so there are so many things I'm thankful for about him. He didn't draw me away. He would go to church with me, something my ex-husband didn't do. He would do all the things that I wanted him to do. Yet the part that drew me away was my double-mindedness about our attraction to one another and having to deal with that conviction. And one other thing I'll say is that, as an adult dating, okay, I was grown, my kids are grown, I'm an empty nester, and so I had to I actually got a roommate because I'm like, oh my gosh. So I have a roommate, an older Christian woman who's in her 60s who loves the Lord, and we get along very well. She's a prayer warrior, intercessor, and so it works. But I had to put that in my life for conviction's sake, so that I would have some accountability because I'm dating as an adult. And when it started out, he lived in a town over. He lived in LA County, and I lived in the county over. And so he would travel down to see me, and I never went up there because I was like, no, I'm not, going up to LA and spending that at your house because that's just, I don't want to, get caught in a situation. But he would come here, and his mom lived here and his son did. So it worked out. And he eventually moved here. But when he was coming back and forth, it was like sometimes he would spend the night on my couch or spend the night in my extra room because um because he came all the way down from LA and his mom lived on the other side of town. And I lived all the way in one side. And so it just, still 40 minutes away in the same city. And so it would just make sense. Um, and so that accountability that you have to have because you're doing there's nobody to watch you. It's only you and God. You could lie to people, right? And I could have played the role. I could have pretended to be, holy. I could have pretended to be, all in and lied about it. But that wasn't, not that we didn't have, a few close calls, which is why I got a roommate. But I just knew I didn't want that, not even behind closed doors, because I knew I had to answer to the Lord, that God could see me. And so I think that going into dating, that was my biggest distraction was um, being attracted to someone and haven't haven't had those feelings or those things awakened for so many years, and then having it all awakened at once, and having to balance that and learn how to say no to that and how to handle that. I'm not a kid, I'm a grown up. I live in my own place. I can do what I want, and nobody will know, and having to put myself in check and say that's not, even behind closed doors, I'm going to do this right. And so I think for me, that was the biggest distraction. If I dated someone again, I would want that person to be someone that would understand my work with the Lord and for the Lord, and be willing to come alongside me or cover me in that. And he did a lot of that, just being there to support me. And so many wonderful things that he did in that dude. I think we were spiritually equally yoked. I don't think so in a way that, but there's probably a lot of men that I probably would be more spiritually mature than, because I've been called into ministry. And I'm actually an ordained minister. That happened just this year as well. So after serving in the ministry for over 15 years and leading ministry for over 12 years. And so I just, yeah, I had to get a roommate. Listen, I had, because when he moved down here, I was like, oh no, I need a roommate. Because when it was sleeping on the couch, and when we first started dating, my daughters would come over, right? So my daughter, they didn't live with me, but they'll be like, well, I'll come over, I'll babysit. That's something that I would have done for them when they were younger. So they were chaperones when he would come over, right? And so that's how we started out, as him being as my one of my daughters would come and be the chaperone or whatever. And then it got to the point where we felt like we could trust, that he was respecting me and my boundaries, and which he did. He definitely, there's so many good things I can say about this man. He really did try. Sometimes I want to, say all the bad things, but I mean, they don't always make them like that. Like, he really respected me. We could be at that last spot and I'll say no, and he would respect it. He really had love and respect for me in that way. And so I appreciate that about him. He really honored me in that way. And so but so when he would spend the night, it would be on the couch or in my extra room. It was never, even when it was just me and him, it was never, him sleeping in my bed or anything like that. Even if he came all the way down from LA. As a Christian adult, you rarely hear real conversation. Yeah. Maybe I will. I've been thinking about it. Maybe that's what God is calling me to in this season. I was thinking about doing something else, but I do definitely think that it's needed. That we don't talk about it, but yeah. So, but he respected me, but I had to move. I mean, I had to find somebody, and it was like, because you yourself. I wasn't always saved, but I had made this commitment to the Lord, and so I had learned how to practice self control. And but I knew that it wasn't, I had to put some distance in. He would come over and hang out, and it's like, you don't always want to go out. You're two adults, and so sometimes you just want to hang out in the house and watch TV or figure out what you're going to do. He would come over and pick me up early in the morning for 6 a.m. prayer when I was leading prayer. And then it was just like, well, if you're down here, you could just, spend the night on the couch, and then we can go to 6 a.m. prayer. So so it was like he was willing to do all that and keep my boundaries. But toward the end, it was just like, what, he was, sexually frustrated. And I was still like, it's no. And I don't know if I want to get married because I don't want to make a mistake, and all of that. And so yeah, I didn't want to make a mistake, because I've been divorced, and I'm like, this is forever. And so it would just kind of, talking about it would make me like hyperventilate, like, oh my gosh, that's so big to, that's such a huge thing, because yeah, my life has been either a mom or I was married to the same man, and my life was centered around this whole world with him and all of this, even though we were divorced. And just changing, I guess, your identity. It's a whole identity change. And so it was really, a commitment. And I needed time to process that. And so and it was like toward the end, he was out of time. He was frustrated. And maybe it was God, like you said, Elaine, maybe it was God, because maybe it wasn't. Hey, Jackie, that's my actual blood sister. What are you doing up, ma'am? Well, it's only 8:30 there, right? Okay. In Texas. But yeah, so but maybe it was God. But anyway, that's how it I can't even say maybe. I know that it was God, whether it was for a season or whatever it was. God doesn't want us to rush anything before it's time. He doesn't want us to feel like we are doing something because we are, what is it called? Being pushed into something, or we feel like we have to do something. He wants us to know for sure. And anything, I believe that anything worth good morning for wherever you are, must be on the other side of the world. Where are you saying good morning from? um Here in Cleveland. Oh yeah, so yours, yeah, Texas is 2 hours away. I'm on Pacific time. But anything anything I believe worth having is worth fighting for. Anything that um I believe anything worth having is worth waiting for. Looking something up and boom, and there you are. And boom, there you are. Tis me. I know I'm trying to get on a little bit more, even though I'm on a social media fast. I have been on until next week. I could get on YouTube because I have a channel, so I have to keep up. So this week I've done this is my third live. Y'all listen. I like the live. But so I believe that it's worth waiting for. It's worth, I know there's a book called Worth the Wait out, but I do believe it's worth the wait. But I think, 2 years is a bit long to ask somebody to wait when you're going through your own ups and downs. But I do believe that God knows what he's doing. And, it's just like, oh, from Germany. Wow. Good morning. It's just like, sometimes we make mistakes or we do things wrong, but God makes all things work together for the good. So I can't call it. Maybe it didn't work out because I was not ready or unsure and couldn't commit. Maybe it was because it was not of God. Maybe it was all of the above. But I know that what we're called to do is the right thing. And the right thing is to not to offer our bodies as a living sacrifice unto the Lord. And even when it gets hard, that and we're under pressure, that our answer still needs to be yes to the Lord. And if that means that you lose some or you win some, then you do. And I think that marriage is a solution to that when. Oh, I'm glad to see you. You should subscribe. If you are watching and you're not subscribed, what are you waiting for? Subscribe. But yeah, I'm trying to reach 10,000 subscribers this year. So we're gonna see. We're gonna see how if I get there. My little goal was 1,000 and last year, and I made it. And now I'm going for 10,000. I've been on YouTube for a while, but I had got off for a while because my kids, my had growing pains, and so I had to really focus on them. And so I'm back here. Yeah. And sometimes there's a little bit of chaos even when God is guiding. That's when we have that conviction and we have that surety in our spirit that we know that even going through hard things that we're going through for God. And so but there's no confusion. Might get a little crazy, but you won't have that confusion, that's for sure. And so um but I believe that, at the end, we have to be true to our convictions. And when we're true to our convictions, we can look back and say, it is well. And, usually I come on here and I'm preaching the word and all of that. So I don't want to not do one little thing here because Paul talks about it in Philippians, and he says, the upward call of God, the upward call of God. So let me go here. The upward call of God, that you're going to lose some things when you're called upward. And in order to continue to walk with the Lord, the high calling of God, in order to continue to walk with him, there's going to be some things pressing on toward the mark of the high calling. But Jesus put it this way. Jesus said, if you love your life, if you're not willing to lose your life, you're not worthy of me. And so you have to be willing to lose. Those who try and save their life will lose it. And those who lose their life for my sake and for the gospel's sake will gain it. And there's no one who's given up houses, brothers, mothers, sisters, cars. He didn't say cars, but it said land for my sake or the gospel's sake, who will not get it in this life and in the life to come. But with persecution. So there will be that persecution. It may not be confusion, but you will be persecuted. There could be chaos. There could be craziness. You could be asking yourself why. You can face fear. You can do things. You will lose people. You will have to count your past rubbish. You will have to learn how to let go of things and keep on walking with Jesus. This is the walk. Just this is the journey. I know that this is what I signed up for. And so I chose to go on a purity journey. And even in losing a relationship, and actually, if I'm honest, even, when when me and my ex-husband split up, I wanted to be on a purity journey too. Like we're not married anymore, sir. And so even back then, it was like that was what I signed up for. And so sometimes, and not just the no sex, but the purity, the things that I used to do that I didn't want to do anymore. I didn't want to go to the club. I didn't want to listen to the same music. It convicted my soul. It grieved the Holy Spirit in me. And not that I try to be holier than thou, because I have a how can I say, a hood side that pops out. Let me just be honest. She comes out. She comes out. I'm saved, but I could still, you know, yeah. But in all of that, she's saved too. All parts of me, the part that can be hood is still saved, still submits to the Lord and follows the Lord. The part of me that preaches the gospel, the part of me that loves the Lord, I can still, I'm still, all of me belongs to the Lord. And so I have had to walk away from things. I have had to give up things, but I have committed to this life of purity. I have committed to serve the Lord. I have committed to serve Him with all of my heart, with all my soul, with all my mind and strength, with all of my days. And that doesn't make me perfect, but it makes me, it's the conviction that I have. And so I go back to that and I still choose it today. And sometimes it will cost you. Jesus said, have you counted the cost? You don't go to war without counting the cost. You don't commit to serving the Lord and the call of God without counting the cost, because then you might not be able to match Him who has 10,000 with your 1,000. I'm paraphrasing. You go into battle and you don't have enough, or maybe God sent Gideon in with 3,000, but God was in the mix. And so you can't match what is coming against you. And what I found is that how it's going is that I found myself in the middle of this purity battle, very, very, very tempted. Um, but my convictions rose up and they won. It felt like I was losing in my flesh because I lost, the person, but we're friends and whatever, but I chose God. And I told him from the beginning, if I ever have to choose between you and God, I'll choose God. And I know that's not everybody can't say that. And I didn't even know what I was saying out of my mouth when I said it. I mean, I knew what I was saying, but I didn't count the cost. I didn't realize that I was going to have to eat those words. Um, but I ate them and I'll eat them again. And so that's where I'm at. I'm still on the purity journey. I recommitted to the purity journey because the last 2 years was a doozy. And when I say purity, I'm not just talking about abstaining. I'm talking about, you know, my thoughts, because after you go through a relationship where you have dabbled in things that are tempting, you have to get your mind back right. But I think also, let me just be clear that I think that, attraction and all of those things are the natural progression of things between a man or a woman. And so I think that it's very important that you date for marriage, because if it's not the person that you're supposed to marry, then you do leave the door open for the devil to tempt you, because you're still dealing with this person, but you don't want to marry. Or if you, and it's so weird because most women want to get married. Like, and he was fine, so all of the things, right? And so me and God, we have this thing. But anyway, um, I um I think that it tempts you when you're not married, or when a man is maybe stringing you on, and then you fall into temptation, and either you give in or you get hurt, or both. And so I think it's very important to date with intention, and to know what you want going in, so that you can walk away if it's not what you want. Or if the person is not, if you're not what the person wants, even if they check all your boxes, but you don't check theirs. I think it's important to understand that, and to walk away when it's time, because you don't want to fall into to temptation of losing yourself, um, lessening yourself to try and be something that somebody wants you to be, or to devalue yourself to try and keep someone. And you don't want to fall into temptation if this person is not who you want to marry, or not who the person that wants to marry you, if it's not a go. So I think it's so important. And so those are the things that I'm taking with me on my purity journey, as I have recommitted to it. And I was wearing my purity ring again, because I don't know when I took it off, but I did, probably before I met this man, probably because my fingers got fat. I'll start wearing that purity ring way back when I was 30 something, and I am closer to 50 now. And so I need to get a new one, because I'm like, okay, this one doesn't fit me. I'm in a different journey. I try to keep it on, but it doesn't, it feels a little tight. So I said, I'm just going to get a new one, and it says purity on it. And I wore that, and I'm going to wear that again. And it wasn't like something, an outward thing. It was almost like a baptism. When what happens on the inside, when you know on the inside, then it's an outward thing that matches what your convictions already were. And so, um, I think the conviction and the commitment in your heart is the most important, because that's what's going to keep you in that hour of temptation. And so anything that you do on the outside is just, um, should reflect what's already going on the inside. You could, not wear makeup. You could, you know, dress, not do your eyebrows, wear flats and dress skirts down to your ankles, and still not have a pure heart, still be in sexual sin. So I think it's important that we get it in our heart. And that's what I'm taking with me is one, um, to date with intention. To when I ask the Lord, even if I'm attracted to a person, or I feel like they're the one, if God says no, then to walk away at that point. To not stay beyond time, to know what I want going into a thing, so that I can see that if I don't want that, and to be honest with myself and the person, so that we don't waste each other's time, and to keep an attitude of purity and keep the boundaries. And so, yeah, not to awaken love before it's time. Um, I hadn't been kissed in ever, and this man kissed me on a date, and it just woke up all these feelings. So I didn't know that because I hadn't dated. And the last time I mean, I was married, and then I got born again, and then I got a divorce. So my lifestyle, my dating before marriage was unsafe. So I didn't put two and two together that. And again, like I said, I had never been to a singles. Um, uh, Ministry or anything, so I didn't know the rules, right? And so I wouldn't kiss. Yeah, that's I'm going in like. So I think that we do need a Christian ministry for this, because everybody doesn't get it, and so you want people that, I think that the ministry that the Lord put on my heart, that or podcasts I might do, start there and then do some events, is for people that really are ready for it, because you want to weed out people who's just playing, and some people you're going to lead to the Lord, and they're going to be drawn to the Christ in you, and they're going to rise to the occasion, and God may change them, and you may find a person like that. You may not find a person directly in ministry or church or something like that, but it's their willingness to say yes to the Lord and follow him, that with the true heart and a pure heart, that really matters. But a person needs to be ready for marriage, if you're ready for marriage, and if the person is not ready for marriage, then you're wasting your time, because as Christians, I totally get it now. We should date for marriage, because outside of that, we leave a door open to the devil. What are we doing if we're just entertaining and going out with different people and all of that? And if there's attraction or something, I think you do need to go out with people, don't get me wrong, to get to know people, to connect. But I think that you need to have your intention set when you do that, so that you don't linger in something that's not going anywhere, and you don't fall into temptation. And so I'm taking in some wisdom, so to my next season. And yeah, so wow, i hadn't I had not even thought about I hadn't thought about doing it. Well, I had. Again, I thought about doing a podcast, but I had laid that down, and I said, God, maybe you want me to do something else. But if y'all are gonna come on the show, let's see, Keisha and Elaine, if y'all gonna come on the show, then maybe I'll do that. Yeah. You guys have to be guests on the show to talk about it. If I can get some guests. Actually, I was gonna do another podcast. Okay, and I have to see your face, Mr. John Adam. I know these two women in real life, so you gotta send me some information. You should definitely do a Christian ministry. You are speaking to some things I have not thought about before. Yes. Yes. I mean, so true. Yeah, I think, and my roommate and different people were saying, you're going through this for a purpose. God is going to use it. I'm like, I don't do singles ministry, but there's something that I wanted to do because of my daughters, or something I wanted to do. And then I started thinking about it as like a speed dating event for Christians. But then I thought, you can't do speed dating events without really getting into the ministry. So I set it down. But then, I've had women come to me that I've ministered to and say, if you do a Bible study or you do a singles ministry, I want to be a part of it. Will you open one? So y'all are just saying what people have said. And I'm like, no, but maybe that's the reason why the Lord have maybe that's why I had to let go of women's ministry, because dealing with singles, and this is where I'm at in life. And it's really sometimes good, because as you minister, as you minister to others, it ministers to you. And so when you're in that place of when you're in a season, it's good to find ministry there, because it helps you stay, what is the word, on top of things. Iron sharpens iron. And so, which is why I had to get a roommate. Like having a roommate, renting a room was great. It added extra income to me, as an empty nester. But the main thing for me was accountability, to have someone here with me to say, you know what, so you in ministry and you're a Christian. I know he's not finna sleep in your room. Of course, that never happened, and I never had to go there. But I didn't know, in the wrong moment, I didn't know what I was capable of. I knew I had done good before he had moved here, and when he came down. But the closer we got, I didn't know. I didn't trust myself. You shouldn't trust the flesh. No, man, I did not trust the flesh. So I had a roommate, and so that kept me accountable. Yeah. And it wasn't to do things out of, trying to keep up appearances. It's just what I needed. It's what I needed, to have someone, you know, um, there to convict me. Like if I was just looking for a room, a rental room, um, he moved down here. He had to find a place. I could have said, "Hey, move in with me." He would have loved to, do all of that. No, I just needed somebody, to keep me and him from, him moving in or us sleeping together or, all of those things. I just knew that I couldn't. I didn't trust me. So I didn't trust the flesh in me, but I trusted the God. And so wisdom directed me to do that. And so that is what I did. And it worked. It worked. It kept me accountable. And yeah, and my roommate wouldn't have, said anything because it wasn't her place and it was my home, but it just kept me accountable. And so yeah, I totally believe in accountability behind closed doors because who was gonna check me, but the Holy Spirit. So I had to put a checker on myself. um, Yes, count me in. Yes, 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 yes. Yes, because you are not speaking superficial sex, you are speaking about all things, kissing and that's just because you're saying different. No, you don't turn into a robot. And I think for a while I was to be let. Yes, I see that too, Elaine. I think for a while I thought, I was a robot, right? Because I just had these blinders on. But then as I started wanting to date, I believe that's why opportunity presented itself to me because I felt like, I was finally, over my ex husband. Because it took me a while. When I love, I'm a loyal, loving person. Like if you got me, you almost got me for life. Like even right now, I might say something to him, but nobody that he don't have to worry about me. I got his back, 100%. If somebody, no, it's not you. Don't come for him to me. Now, if I'm saying something to somebody personally, that's different. But that's just how I am, right? And so, I think I'm a loyal person, so it took me a while, and that's a good thing. And sometimes it can be a bad thing because when I commit, it's like, okay, girl, you can let go now. And so it was, and so I'm having to learn that about myself, and so that's another reason why I have to be careful about getting into relationships because I'm a person that if I'm in, whether it's ministry, whatever it is, if I commit to it, then we go. I'm gonna be a ride or die for a minute, but that is me, and so when I finally got over him to the point when I finally got over, and let it go and got into another relationship. I had been a robot. So when this person kissed me, it was like everything that was, had been dead, had been frozen, just was like, woo, you know, it was like that feel good. It's like, and so the Bible says don't awaken love before it's time. So it was like a Pandora's box. And so more, as I said earlier, more than him, because he was really sweet to me and being there for me and doing everything, it was the conviction that I had to put in, because then I realized I wasn't a robot. Then I realized, ooh, this is not, like, okay. So, and now really have to live up to what I thought. That was the shocker for me, to be honest. The shocker was that I had this um, purity journey, this um, abstaining from sex journey, but I had never been put in temptation. So it's not good. It's like I had been to school, but I hadn't been in the field. And so it was not even tested yet. And so I had to test it and find out what I was really made of. And I found out that it was by the grace of God. There go I, that I need his mercy every day. Like anybody, I'm flesh and blood and I'm not a robot. And so it was all good when I wasn't dating, when I was, wanting my marriage to work out, and I was telling my ex-husband no, and then he went on about his life and I went on about my life, but I was still quietly praying and believing for him, even though we didn't have a sexual relationship. We were friends, and all of this and the other. And so it was okay when I was not in the field, but I got tested. And like I said, maybe a D plus, a C minus. I passed by the skin of my teeth, to be honest. to be honest. I went as far as I could go a few times. And there were times when I was just like, no, we can't kiss, we can't do anything. But then there were those times when I got caught by a surprise where I barely got out by the skin of my teeth. And so I'm not proud of that. But he tells me it's funny because my ex says, not my ex-husband, but my ex-man, boyfriend, whatever you want to call him, says that I should be a minister. It's me being this, I'm a saint because the way I told him no for 2 years, only a woman of God can do that. I'm saved, saved. And I'm like, really? You think I did good? I think I did horrible. So I guess, in a way, in his mind, I, was great. In my mind, even though we didn't go all the way, I still felt like bad, like this is not, cool, like this, and so I guess even having that conviction is what kept me from going all the way. Yeah, I went to school. Yeah, I was like, like now you're dating. Yeah, and I found out, like the word tries you, and it's like, oh, so you thought you was all of that, Now you get to see what these other women are talking about when they date and they fall, and because you hadn't been there, you had been over here serving the Lord and doing all of this, so you don't even know what it's like, to be tempted and how easy it is. And it's like, okay, everything came on, and then I was like, oh God. But by the grace of God, that's all I can say. By the grace of God, and him and I have two different recollections of what happened. Because I felt like, oh my gosh, the worst sinner. He's like, when I got ordained last month, no, early this month, I got ordained at my church as a reverend pastor and evangelist. And he was like, congratulations. And that's you, because that, yeah. And I thought it was so funny. I'm like, we have so completely, totally different um, opinions. Um, about what happened, because I felt horrible and he felt like I wouldn't budge. So, so I guess I passed in some ways, but definitely going back to a place of purity. And again, I want to say, I'm gonna go ahead and get off. It's almost been 2 hours, but I actually feel like um, that attraction, coming together, intimacy. That's true. I feel like I got probably a B minus. Oh gosh, probably a B minus. Let him have it. Let him say I got an A, because he's like, you know what? I deserve at least one time. He still says that. It's so funny. It's not. I mean, I feel like I didn't. Yeah, it's. I'm like I. It's not funny. I didn't mean to do him any kind of way, but it's like he cracks me up with that. Like, and I'm like, whew, bruh, like I went far. And he's like, after everything you put me through at least once. I'm like, but anyway, okay, I'm going over the deep end. But yeah, and I'm like, no, I still want to wait for marriage. I still want to have that holy, I still believe that I want to do that. I still choose to do it God's way. I still want to have that be with my forever love. I still want to cherish this. I still want to be able to enter in without any apprehension, I want to be able to fully enjoy myself without any conviction or shame, to be naked and unashamed and told, like, I enjoyed sex when I was married in BC before Christ. And I want to be able to enjoy that again. And I don't want to have conviction or shame or feel bad or not really be able to fully give myself. I want to enjoy my husband. I want to enjoy my sex life, not just, the sex, but all the fellowship and all the connection and all of that. And so I'll wait. I know, and I'm believing God that, it's going to come. The right person is going to come, and that I'm going to get all of that. And so, but because I do believe that's a natural progression. And I believe that when, people aren't attracted to people, if you find a man that, is not attracted to you, it might be a problem. Of course, you want somebody that respects you and all of that. But, like, especially churchmen, sometimes I feel like I watch something and it's true, after a certain time, if a man doesn't try to hold your hand or something like that, there might be, he might have some problems. So you want to watch. One of the things that we have to watch about, he's got engaged, so you can do it if she did it. Yes, and she's a pastor. Yeah, and so you have to think about, one of the things is that, when you when you're on a purity journey, you don't know, you have to trust God that when He brings the right person, that He's going to match you up and make you equally yoked sexually, or that. And I think my ex asked me that before as well. It's like, I think that we would be able to please each other, because when you're in a loving, open relationship where you can talk to each other and be transparent, then I feel like I will be able to tell my husband, listen, I'm 47 years old. I got 4 kids. Listen, what I know, what I like and I don't like, and you can tell me the same. And the marriage bed is holy and undefiled. So I feel like that you don't have to worry about that, that God will link you with the right person, and that if you both have patience and compassion, and seek the other person's pleasure above your own, and that person has the same thing, that you can join together and have a beautiful marriage and a beautiful sex life, and whatever that looks like between the two of you. And so, because I think that is a natural progression of things, and I think that um but you do want to know that you're attracted to the person and all of those things before. So you don't want to just be like, I don't think that you should just be shut down. But I think that you need to know this person is the person for you, that you're talking about marriage before you know hug, or kiss, or those type of things, when you already know, not before, when you're dating, because you're opening yourself up, and then again you get blurry vision, and purity brings clarity, so that you can say nope. This person, you can think with your mind, you can think with a clear mind and a clear head, and your emotions and your attraction and all the feelings and love that wakes up and passions that wake up are not, your sight of who and what this person really is, and if they're for you. And they could be a good person and not for you, not right for you, because their destinies and purposes doesn't line up. So it could be a man of God, a woman of God, but not the right person for you. They can have a lot of things but don't tick your most important boxes, and that person is still not right for you. You could be, I think that you should also be attracted to your person, and they should be attracted to you, so you don't want to have to settle. And that's whatever it is for you. It's not just whatever attracts you, whatever you're attracted to. So we have to be clear about that as well. um they don't have to be the end all and be all, but they have to be that for you. You don't want to settle, but you don't also, I think that you don't want to overlook people because of their finances, or their they don't check, they're not the perfect looking guy or woman. You want to look at things like, do they work hard, are they hardworking, do they have integrity, can we build something together, versus maybe what they already have, or that type of thing. You want to not look at outward appearances. But anyway, I think I have run on. I'm a run on sentence tonight. I hope you guys enjoyed this. This is my purity journey, how it started. After I got divorced, I chose to live for God. How it's going, I have been tested in the field after being in school for over a decade. I thought I was good to go, messed around and met a fine brother who I was attracted to, who was sweet to me, and got tested. Almost didn't pass that test. And I recommitted to my purity journey. And so this is just another form of transparency and accountability, is coming back here and sharing my story with you guys, and letting you guys know how it's going, how it started, how it's going, and where I'm at now, and where I hope to go. So I'm going to pray about it, y'all. And And I'll get with you guys, Keisha and Elaine, and see if you guys want to do what is it called? I'm gonna if I was thinking about doing a new podcast. I laid down my other podcast. I did it for 4 years, and I really want to do. I started a podcast when they weren't very popular, and I've had that podcast, and I've changed the name of it, and I think I just need to start something new. So I have some ideas. So maybe this will be the one that I go with. Praying about it. We want to go with what is needed, not just what we want, but what people need. And so, if there's a need, then I think that that's something that we need. We have so many different single ministries and people talking about Christian relationships and all of that. But I think that this offers something different to a specific group of people, those that are divorced, those that are older, those that have, gone through and are on a purity journey. And so that might be something that whether you're divorced or just have kids or are older and you don't fit in the other group, you know because you've lived the life, you've already had sex, you've done things, and now you're walking with the Lord. And so anyway, I'm gonna pray about that, and I will talk to you guys later. I enjoyed this live with y'all, and I will let you know. Maybe I'll do another one. I'm coming off of my fast next. I think we end on the 31st. Yes, we end on the 31st. And so I really want the Lord, I'm asking the Lord for direction, um, for what I am supposed to be doing now that I'm um, have time to do things outside of the church. I'm still leading prayer on Saturday mornings at my local church, but I know that God has called me outside the church. So I'm just asking him, what is it supposed to be doing? And, I never thought about doing singles ministry because the depth of the word of God that he's given me is not just for one, for singles. But I think what I'm learning is that having a YouTube channel, as I watch different people, that I could do different things. I could do a podcast and I could still do my prophetic messages and teachings. And I can do my podcast here and record it. I don't have to just do one thing. I'm a content creator. And when I look at it as in creating quality Christian content, then I don't have to be stuck. It doesn't have to be either or. It can be both and. And so, and now that I have let go of certain things, I am able to focus more and bring better content, be more consistent, and put more energy into it. So we might do a single something, something, something. Okay. God bless y'all. Till next time. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't subscribed, and like this video. I see not a lot of you guys liked it. I would really appreciate if you guys would hit the thumbs up, and if you would share this, and if you would subscribe if you haven't subscribed. Okay. God bless.